Welcome everyone to English Matura with JB. Today, we're diving headfirst, or should I say jumping out of a plane, into the world of extreme sports. I'm your host, Jane, and I'm thrilled to have Dr. Alex Stone, a statistician with a keen interest in risk assessment, joining us. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jane. I'm excited to explore the numbers behind these adrenaline-pumping activities.
So, Alex, what sparked your interest in analyzing the risks of extreme sports?
Well, it started with a rather unnerving experience. I was asked to do a skydive for a TV program about chance and uncertainty. As a statistician, I naturally began to wonder about the actual dangers involved in skydiving and other high-risk pursuits.
A skydive, huh? That's quite the commitment to your craft. So, what were some of the challenges you faced when trying to quantify the risks associated with these activities?
The biggest hurdle is data collection. It's relatively easy to count fatalities, but determining the total number of participants or the frequency of their involvement is much harder. Do we look at the proportion of deaths per participant, per type of activity, or per day of activity? Getting solid numbers is tricky.
That makes sense. It's like trying to calculate the odds when you don't know how many people are playing the game. So, let's talk specifics. What extreme sport did you look at first?
I started with mountaineering, one of the earliest forms of extreme sport. Climbing Mount Everest, for example, has a significant fatality rate. From the first attempt until the end of 2011, there was one death for every 25 people who reached the summit.
Wow, that's a sobering statistic. It really puts the challenge into perspective. What about other forms of aerial adventure, like skydiving?
Skydiving is less risky than mountaineering, but still carries a risk. The United States Parachute Association estimated about 10 micromorts per jump between 2000 and 2010. A micromort, by the way, is a 1 in a million chance of death.
So about 10 in a million jumps end in fatality. What about base jumping, where people jump from fixed objects?
Base jumping is significantly more dangerous. One of the safer spots, the Kjerag Massif in Norway, has an average of around 430 micromorts per jump. That's considerably higher than skydiving.
430 micromorts? That sounds incredibly risky. It's fascinating how you can quantify these risks and compare them across different sports. What about underwater activities? How does scuba diving compare?
Scuba diving has a different set of hazards, but it's generally considered less risky than base jumping. The British Sub-Aqua Club recorded an average of around 8 micromorts per dive between 1998 and 2009.
Okay, so scuba diving is relatively safer than skydiving. It's interesting to see how these risks stack up. Now, what about something that might seem less extreme? Like marathon running.
Marathon running might surprise you. There's a risk of sudden death, and it averages around 7 micromorts per marathon. That puts it in a similar range to scuba diving or skydiving.
That's surprising. I wouldn't have thought marathon running would be in the same category as skydiving. So, what's the takeaway here? Is there a common thread among these extreme sports?
It seems people are willing to accept a certain level of risk, around 10 micromorts per episode, for a challenging and exciting leisure activity. Of course, this excludes the base jumpers, who are clearly in a different league.
So 10 micromorts is the magic number for acceptable risk. Can you put that into perspective for us? What does that equate to in everyday life?
10 micromorts is roughly equivalent to the risk of death for an average 30-year-old man in 4 days of normal life, or 1 day for a 50-year-old. It's also about the same as a 60-mile motorbike ride, or 2,500 miles in a car.
That's a really helpful comparison. It makes the risks of extreme sports seem a bit more relatable. So, Alex, based on your analysis, what would you say are the key factors that contribute to the risk in these activities?
Well, it's a combination of things. Skill level, equipment, environmental conditions, and just plain luck all play a role. It's also important to remember that these are just averages. Individual risk can vary greatly depending on the specific circumstances.
That makes sense. It's not just about the sport itself, but also about how you approach it. So any final thoughts for our listeners who might be considering taking up an extreme sport?
Do your research, get proper training, and understand the risks involved. And most importantly, listen to your gut. If something doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Great advice, Alex. It's all about being informed and making smart choices. Alex, this has been incredibly insightful. Thanks for sharing your expertise with us.
My pleasure, Jane. It's been fun.
So to recap some of the key insights, we learned that extreme sports, while thrilling, do come with inherent risks. Mountaineering and base jumping are among the riskiest, while skydiving, scuba diving, and even marathon running carry a measurable level of danger. But ultimately, it's about understanding those risks, taking precautions, and making informed decisions. Thanks for tuning in to English Matura with JB.